Okay, so I've been asked to do some videos on the Northern Lights technique, as you see it in this card. So we're going to actually create this tag today, but it's basically the same technique used in these, just not using all the reds and yellows and greens, and also in this one. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so we're using all Close to My Heart products. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use this Happy Holidays sentiment, and that's going to create this little section right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Versamark ink and that stamp on one of our blocks. I'm going to ink it up and stamp it in the bottom left hand corner here. And of course when you stamp it, you don't really see anything at all, but then we're going to dip it in our white embossing powder, and I just keep my embossing powder in a little tub like that, and then I don't have to waste it trying to get it off of paper and whatnot. Okay, so I just use the paintbrush to clean off a little bit, and then I'm going to use my heat gun to heat it up. Okay. I don't know if you can see it on camera or not. What happens is it goes from kind of a matte to a glossy. When that's all heated up, then I'm going to start doing my inking. So I've got one over here that I've already started that's already cool, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And these are the colors that I've decided to use today. So I'm using the Canary, Z2643, the Sunset, Z2191, the Fern, Z2650, the Glacier, Z2641, the Peacock, Z2649, and the Gypsy Z2190. Okay, so those are the colors I'm going to use. Put them back in the order that I have them in, because that's the order I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the Canary. And what I do is I use our little, these little guys, and I'm going to start and just make some streaks. I'm going to start just above where it says Happy Holidays, and I'm just going to go across. And it's okay if it's got little lines in it, because that adds to the look of the Northern Lights, right? Okay, so really quickly, just going to make some crazy little lines. Put my sponge dauber and my Canary away, and then I'm going to start with my Sunset. So I have a sponge dauber for each color, and I just go ahead and put the next color on, kind of overlap it a little bit. Doesn't have to really be perfect, because all of our colors are going to blend together and cover that up. So that's what I've got so far. Okay, doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot. Now I don't have a sponge dauber for this Fern color, so I'm going to use just one of these makeup things, and I'm just going to do the green. Okay, and I think I'm going to do a little bit more green. Fill that in all the way. Okay, now that's what it looks like. Kind of a mess right now, but believe it or not, in the end, it turns into that. Okay, so now we're going to start covering the whole card. The first color that I'm going to use is Glacier, and I use a sponge dauber for that as well. And I start at the bottom, filling that in. Now these sponge daubers I've used quite a bit, and so you can see that they aren't the smoothest anymore, but that's okay. We're going to just use them anyway, especially for this technique, because it just doesn't really matter. So anything that's not covered On the outside here, I cover with Glacier. And I start to work my way down into this color a little bit and fill in the empty spots as well. So if there's anywhere that my other ink colors didn't quite get into, I'm going to use this to fill that in. Now, as you can see, excuse me, doesn't look that great just yet, but we're going to get there. Pardon me, it's still not over my gold. Month and running, I tell you. Okay, so the next color I'm going to use is the Peacock. And again, I don't have a sponge dauber for this, so I just cut up one of our sponges. And I'm going to use this. And I'm going to start on the outside and work my way in. Got my all-purpose mat here so that it's not going to make a really big mess. And I'm just going to go over top of everything that I just did and get a little bit of a darker color. I find with these sponges, if I kind of swipe across, then I get a little bit better pickup of ink and it doesn't take quite so long. So now I'm going to go into that just a little bit, and I'm going to go over the bottom a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to do some swipes kind of over top of my Northern Lights. And now you can see as I go over top of the Happy Holidays, it's kind of cool because I had it white embossed it stays white. Okay, I'm not going to worry about covering that portion too much. Okay, so done with the Peacock. As you can see, this is actually a pretty quick process. Doesn't really take that long to go. Now, as strange as it may seem, I'm going to end with my Gypsy color. I'm going to start on the outside again. And I'll work all around. I really like the Gypsy color. I like what it does, especially with this technique. Again, I'm going to do a couple swipes going across there so that it kind of blends that all together. Okay, so that's what where we're at right now. Hopefully you can see that fairly well. Now to sort of get my speckled look, what I do is I take a little bit of water. I've got a little bit of water in a glass here. I'm going to dip my fingers in it, and I'm going to sprinkle. Now, depending on how much of that snowy effect you want, will depend on how much you sprinkle. Okay. And because our inks are water-based inks, what happens is, as it dries, it lifts the color. Okay, so it gives you that snowy look. I'm just going to quickly dry it with my heat gun. Sometimes you get rather large splotches. I don't actually mind that. I think it's kind of okay. And I'm going to take that away to a certain degree in a little bit here, but I'll show you how. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the tree from the Always Grateful C1559 stamp set. So I've already got that on my block, and I'm going to ink that up with my black ink, Z2105. And what I'm going to do is, I always like to use a little spongy mat for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink that up. Okay, now because I'm going to cover this part up down here afterwards, I'm not too worried about where my tree ends up and what it covers. I'm going to ink it again. And then one more time. I kind of like to have 3 of them on there. Okay. And I'm just going to use a quick wet one to wipe my stamp off. So you can tell I didn't worry about it so much with the Versamark, but with the ink on it, I want to make sure that it's clean. So we got that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use a little bit of scratch paper, and I'm going to tear it. And that's going to create my... Let's get rid of that. That's going to create my snowbank. And so what I'm doing is I'm trying to make it so that I've got my Happy Holidays exposed, and then just covering up part of the tree. I feel like I kind of want to go up a little bit higher, so I'm going to make this a little bit more like that. Okay, actually, I want to do it that way. So this is going to become my mask. So I've got my sponge dauber with black ink on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on my mask and work my way down and cover this whole section in black. Okay. And again, with my all-purpose mat on the bottom here, I'm all good. I don't have to worry about getting it on anything else. Okay, I'm going to rub that in really good. I want that line where my mask is to be fairly dark. Okay. Okay, and then when I remove that, it gives me that snowbank look. Oh, I see I accidentally, when I stamped my trees, I had some ink on the side of my block, which is too bad. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit of black around the edge, because I want to just darken that up and bring it all together. Okay, and that's really it for all my inking. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to get something, a piece of dry, and I just want to wipe off my Happy Holidays so it stays exposed a little bit more. Okay, and that just gets the ink off of my embossing so that it shows up really nice. And then what I want to do is I'm going to grab my gel pen, if I can find it, because there we go. And I'm just going to do some little accents of snow. So I'm just going to create some little dots, just random little dots. Oh, this is not one of my better ink gel pens. Oh darn, all my things fell down just before I started to record, so I don't know where my little gel pen is, but you get the idea of it anyway. Let's try this one and see if this one works. There we go. Okay, some little dots here and there. Okay, and that just gives me that. If I want to create some snow on the trees, I can just quickly just do some little squiggly lines. I kind of do it just haphazardly, and then, believe it or not, it seems to work and looks like there's actual snow on the trees. Okay, and then if you want, this isn't a close to my heart product, but there's a product called Wink of Stella, and what it does is it just gives a little bit of a sparkle. So what I did is I ran it just down the very edge here, and it just gave a little bit of sparkle to the top of my snowbank. I like the way it kind of did that. And then I just used it for a couple little dots here and there as well, just to give it a little bit of shine. So really, that's all that there is to it. Now you have to pretend that I don't have these little lines here from my block rocking on there. But basically, that's it. That's how you do it. Okay. So there's the finished card. And what I did was, for this background, is I used our blue paper and I ran it through a corrugator, and then I just used an ink pad and just rubbed on it to get that background. This one, of course, I used a different tree. I used this tree from that Always Grateful stamp set. And as you can see, I used the white gel pen to create the snow on there. You can stamp on top of it afterwards as well if you want to. So here what happened is I didn't go all the way down with the inking. I left that portion white so I'd have room to stamp my piece on there. And then with this one, what I did was I used a piece of paper as a mask to prevent the ink from getting down there. Inked it up just like we did in the other one. Pardon me. Did my glacier and my peacock and my gypsy. Did the little splinking thing with the water, stamped on there, and took that off and did that. Used my Wink of Stella to just accent that a little bit. So there you go. That's how we did those cards. Hope you enjoy them. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email and ask. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.